Astotara Shachi Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Nityalila Pravishna Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajakatarya Astotara Shachi Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Down Visipal His Divine Grace Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Down Visipal His Divine Grace Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Down Visipal His Divine Grace Srila Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Sirup Si Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Si Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Brajabhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Sinabhadik Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Gangavai Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Books Distribution Ki Jai. ISKCON Tawako New Jersey Ki Jai. The Lordship Sri Gornitai Ki Jai. Sri Sitaram Lakshman Hanumanji Ki Jai. Sri Nataji Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Satarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna. We're reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. We were asked to speak on Lord Krishna due to the upcoming Janmashtami. Of course, before Lord Krishna's appearance, it will be Lord Balaram. So we pick a verse from the Bhagavad Gita about the nature of the Supreme Lord, His transcendental body, and how His appearance is transcendental also. From the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Transcendental Knowledge, text number 6. Prabhupada says that we should understand the Bhagavad Gita in the beginning, because this speaks about Krishna Tattva before we can relish Krishna Lila. Some they go immediately to Krishna Lila without understanding Krishna's position. It's like in India, everyone wants to hear about the Rasa Lila dance, which is the most confidential pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So let's try to understand first who is Krishna, how he appeared 5,000 years ago, and from time to time. So we're gonna recite the Sanskrit for those of you who has a smartphone. If you don't have the database or Prabhupada's books, it's not a smartphone. It's not smart enough. So you can follow me if you have. Ajo pisang avyayatma.
Ajo api san avyayatma.
Bhutanam isvaro pisang.
Bhutanam ishvaro pisang.
Prakritim swam adhistaya.
Prakritim swam adhisthaya.
Sambhavame atmamayaya.
Sambhavame atmanayaya.
Ajopi sang avyayatma.
Ajopi san avyayatma.
Bhutanam isvaro pisang.
Bhutanam ishvaro pisang.
Prakritim swam adhisthaya.
Prakritim swam adhisthaya.
Sambhavame atmamayaya.
Sambhavame atmanayaya.
Ajopi sang avyayatma.
Ajopi san avyayatma.
Bhutanam isvaro pisang.
Bhutanam ishvaro pisang.
Prakritim swam adhisthaya.
Prakritim swam adhisthaya.
Sambhavame atmamayaya.
Sambhavame atmanayaya.
So word for word translation. Aja,
Aja,
unborn.
unborn.
Api,
Api,
although.
son,
Being so.
being so.
Avyaya,
Avyaya,
without deterioration.
without deterioration.
Atma,
Atma,
body.
body.
Bhutanam,
Bhutanam,
of all those who are born.
all those who are born.
Ishvara,
Ishvara,
the Supreme Lord.
Supreme Lord.
Api,
Api,
although.
although.
Son, being so.
Being so.
Prakritim,
Prakritim,
in the transcendental form.
in the transcendental form.
Swam,
Swam,
of myself.
of myself.
Adhisthaya,
Adhisthaya,
being so situated.
being so situated.
Sambhavami,
Sambhavami,
I do incarnate.
I do incarnate.
Atmamaya,
Atmamaya,
by my internal energy.
by my eternal energy.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada K.
Jai.
Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, by my internal energy, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Everybody please repeat. Although I am unborn,
Although I am unborn,
and my transcendental body
and my transcendental body
never deteriorates,
never deteriorates,
and although I am the Lord
and although I am the Lord
of all living entities,
of all living entities,
by my internal energy,
by my internal energy,
I still appear
I still appear
in every millennium
in every millennium
in my original
in my original
transcendental form.
transcendental form.
Purport. The Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of His birth. Although He may appear like an ordinary person, He remembers everything of His many, many past births. Whereas a common man cannot remember what he has done even a few hours before. If someone is asked what he did exactly at the same time one day earlier, it would be very difficult for a common man to answer immediately. He would surely have to dredge his memory to recall what he was doing exactly at the same time one day before. And yet, men often dare claim to be God or Krishna. One should not be misled by such meaningless claims. Then again, the Lord explains his prakriti or his form. Prakriti means nature, as well as swarup, or one's own form. The Lord says that he appears in his own body. He does not change his body as the common living entity changes from one body to another. The conditioned soul may have one kind of body in the present birth, but he has a different birth in the next birth. In the material world, the living entity has no fixed body but transmigrates from one body to another. The Lord, however, does not do so. Whenever he appears, he does so in the same original body by his internal potency. In other words, Krishna appears in this material world in his original eternal form with two hands holding a flute. He appears exactly in his eternal body, uncontaminated by this material world. Although he appears in the same transcendental body and is the Lord of the universe, it still appears that he takes his birth like an ordinary living entity. And although his body does not deteriorate like a material body, it still appears that Lord Krishna grows from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth. But astonishingly enough, he never ages beyond youth. At the time of the Battle of Kurukshetra, he had many grandchildren at home. Or in other words, he had sufficiently aged by material calculations. Still, he looked just like a young man, 20 or 25 years old. We never see a picture of Krishna in old age because he never grows old like us. Although he is the eldest person in the whole creation, past, present, and future. Neither his body nor his intelligence ever deteriorates or changes. Therefore, it is clear that in spite of his being in the material world, he is the same unborn, eternal form of bliss and knowledge, changeless in his transcendental body and intelligence. Factually, his appearance and disappearance are like the sun's rising, moving before us, and then disappearing from our eyesight. When the sun is out of sight, we think that the sun has set, and when the sun is before our eyes, we think that the sun is on the horizon. Actually, the sun is always in its fixed position, but owing to our defective, insufficient senses, we calculate the appearance and disappearance of the sun in the sky. And because Lord Krishna's appearance and disappearance are completely different from that of any ordinary common living entity, it is evident that he is eternal, blissful knowledge by his internal potency, and he is never contaminated by material nature. The Vedas also confirm that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unborn, yet he still appears to take birth in multi-manifestations. The Vedic supplementary literatures also confirm that even though the Lord appears to be taking his birth, he is still without change of body. In the Bhagavatam, he appears before his mother as Narayana, with 4 hands and the decorations of the 6 kinds of full opulences. His appearance in his original eternal form is his causeless mercy, bestowed upon the living entities so that they can concentrate on the Supreme Lord as He is, and not on mental concoctions or imaginations which the impersonalist wrongly thinks the Lord's form to be. The word Maya or Atma Maya refers to the Lord's causeless mercy, according to Vishvakosha Dictionary. The Lord is conscious of all of His previous appearances and disappearances. But a common living entity forgets everything about his past body as soon as he gets another body. He is the Lord of all living entities because He performs wonderful and superhuman activities while He is on this earth. Therefore, the Lord is always the same absolute truth and is without differentiation between His form and self, or between His quality and body. A question may now be raised as to why the Lord appears and disappears in this world. This is explained in the next verse. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport and the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, text number 6. Omagyanam timirandasya gyanangyana salakaya Chaksuram militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Ajapi sang avyayatma bhutanam isvaropishan prakritim sang adhishtaya sambhavami atmayaya. Very wonderful verse explaining the nature of the Supreme Lord, how He is transcendental. He is not of this material world. Somehow, He comes to the material world. Supreme Lord is only enjoying, along with His eternal associates in the spiritual world called Goloka Vrindavan, which is the topmost planet in the spiritual world. And also, He has unlimited incarnations, also residing in the spiritual world in different Vaikuntha planets, where there is no anxiety. So somehow, the Lord comes to the material world, as Prabhupada says in the purport, out of His causeless mercy. Causeless, there is no reason. There is no cause. But still he comes due to his love for the living beings who are here in the material world, suffering. He says in the Bhagavad Gita that in this material world is full of suffering because of its temporary nature. And the living beings who are here in the material world, having come in contact with the material energy, also has to suffer. That's part of being here. Krishna doesn't want us to suffer, but somehow that's part of being in the material world. You cannot escape that. So Krishna will come from time to time, as will be explained later on also from the following verses, that he will come to establish the principles of religion, because from time to time the religious principle seems to be forgotten. To annihilate the demons, paritanaya sadhunam vinasaya chadushritam, to annihilate the demons and to protect his devotees, he would come. Ultimately, Krishna comes to the material world not to kill the demons, because the demons will be killed anyway by time. Time I am the destroyer of everything. He would come because he will perform his pastimes, his superhuman pastimes, activities. When Krishna comes to the material world, he comes in his original form, because his form that doesn't deteriorate, it's still the same. Unlike us, according to medical science, our body changes every 12 years. Complete cell transformation, the changes. So 12, 24, 36, 48, till we die. And then when we die, we take another form of body, which is not going to be the same from the past or the previous. It could be a lower species of life, or it could be in the higher species of life, like that of the demigods. But the soul still remains the same. It doesn't change. Only the body changes. And therefore, we are forgetful. We cannot remember what happened in the past. Only few are gifted, especially those who are liberated souls. They're also what we call Trikalagya. They know past, present, and future. But for us, I cannot remember what I was doing at the same time, like 10 days ago. Unless we're doing the same thing, like if we're doing puja, then you can say, okay, at this time I'm doing puja. But then if you're doing some material activities, forget it. You're gonna rack your brain and you'll not be able to remember it instantly. You'll not be able to do. But Krishna's body is transcendental. As Prabhupada says in the purport, when he was here 5,000 years ago, in the Battle of Kurukshetra, he's actually 125 years old. He's married to 16,108 queens. Each queen has 10 sons, and each of those 10 sons has 10 sons each, not including the daughters. So you can just count how many grandchildren or great-grandchildren he has, and he doesn't get old. If you look at the picture of the Bhagavad Gita, he's around 20, 25 years old, as Prabhupada says. He's eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. This is the nature of Param Isvara, the Supreme Lord. Unlike us, we changes our body, and we forgot. So when he come to the material world, in every universe there is what you call Vrindavan. He takes birth in Vrindavan. And before he comes, just like in a movie, I hope you're not watching movies, But in the movies, before the main actor or the character comes, the whole setting will be arranged. The characters also that will be playing with the actor will be also arranged. So similarly, Vrindavan, before Krishna came 5,000 years ago, Vrindavan is eternal. It's a manifestation, expansion of Lord Balaram. And Vrindavan is there. It's considered as in the shape of a lotus flower. Prabhupada says that the last most beautiful thing that you will find in this world is lotus flower. It's like whenever there is a spiritual topic or spiritual message, it's always shape of lotus flower. And Krishna's form also is compared to a lotus flower. His eyes, lotus lips, lotus hands, lotus feet, lotus navel. The whole body of Krishna is like that. So Vrindavan, sometimes it's manifest and sometimes it is not manifest. It's unmanifest. And even right now, if you go to the modern day Vrindavan, it is not like the same Vrindavan as you can see 5,000 years ago. So many high-rise buildings. Many people are exploiting. They even have a helipad now in one of those buildings so you can go quicker from Delhi to Vrindavan or anywhere else. They even have an advertisement, live luxuriously in Vrindavan. So it doesn't match. Or they have a Radha golf. You can play golf also. But it's not like that. Vrindavan is a rural environment. And Krishna was there 5,000 years ago. Krishna would tend the calves, play with his cowherd boyfriends, and full of lush, green lush trees, flowers. Govardhan Hill was so high. Even thousands of years ago, it says that Govardhan Hill is higher than the Himalayas, Mount Everest, but somehow sinking one mustard seed, the size of mustard seed every day. Yamuna also, I remember first time going there around 30 years ago, 32 years ago. You can drink the water in Yamuna. Now it's dangerous. You may get sick. So Vrindavan is there, still there, but it's not like the way, because we're contaminated. We're not able to see the way Vrindavan as it is. One time Prabhupada was once asked, or the guru of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada was once asked by one of his disciples, how is it that it looks like this? It doesn't look like Vrindavan. When Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was doing his parikrama in 1932, he also mentions that, I don't see any one single Brajavasi here. That was in 1932. What to say now? How is it like this? It's seeming to be very dirty, canals not being cleaned up, so many wild animals or pigs, smelly sometimes in some parts of Vrindavan. Why is it like this? And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that you will not see Vrindavan externally. You will not see Vrindavan by your eyes. Even right now, Krishna is still in Vrindavan. Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, even one step outside of Vrindavan. He's still there. So why is it that when we go to Vrindavan, we don't see Krishna? playing his flute or pasturing the cows and the cows along with his cowherd boyfriends, the Gopas, because we are contaminated. Our hearts full of material desires, anarthas. We're not able to see the real Vrindavan or even Krishna. And so, in order to see Krishna and the real Vrindavan, we have to cleanse our hearts. Prabhupada gave us the process whereby, by following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, and as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells us how to do it, cleansing our hearts with the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So Krishna, there's only one God. He's the same God as the Hindu. He's the same God as the Christian. He's the same God as the Muslims. He's the same God as the Buddhist. One God only. Unlike today, there is a factory of God in India. Every day there is a born God, proclaiming that they're God. But it is not so. Because according to the Shastras, Krishna or his expansions is already specified. The date where they're going to come, they appear, the village, their father, their mother. Sometimes Krishna will come directly, his expansion from Vaikuntha. He doesn't have to take birth like 5,000 years ago. Krishna is Aja. Unborn, says here. Aja. He's unborn. He doesn't have a father and he doesn't have a mother. That's why he is God. So why is it that 5,000 years ago he has a father and a mother? Devaki, Vasudeva, Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yasoda. Why is that? Because the devotees wants to be their parents, the parents. They want to relate with Krishna as a parent. So Krishna fulfilled the desires of his devotees. Krishna seems to become subjugated, even though he is the supreme. But seemingly, he will act and play a role in such a way that it seems to be his position becomes diminished. And Prabhupada gave an example, just like there is this one prime minister in England, Gladstone. There was a visitor. He wants to see, he has an appointment with the prime minister. And the secretary says, just wait. He's busy right now, just wait. So half an hour passed. He says, well, my appointment, I supposed to see him half an hour ago. And the secretary says, just wait. Another half an hour passed. Still, he's not able to come in. And says, well, I really want to see him. Can I really see him now? He says, just wait. The secretary look in the hole of the doorknob, and he sees Gladstone, the prime minister, is playing like a horse. And his grandson is sitting on top of him. He cannot figure this out. That is why he's not able to meet the person who's supposed to meet him. So Krishna, sometimes he would play like this. He would carry the wooden shoes of Nanda Baba. Ekala Isvara Krishna Ara Sarva Vittaya. We're all servants of the Supreme Lord. Krishna is the only Supreme. Everyone is subordinate. But for his devotees, he would play in such a way that he seems to be like subordinate. This makes the bondage or the intimacy relationship between his devotees and the Supreme Lord. Because he's acting, he's free to act accordingly. No one can say that what he's doing is right or wrong. He has this free will. Unlike us, we have a minute independence. We can act also if we want, however we want to do it, but we are bound by karma, by prakriti, by the energy that is predominating in the material world. The material energy is Bahiranga Shakti. We're bound by karma. Krishna is not bound by karma. He's coming here again and again, and once in one day of Lord Brahma, every millennium, is not due to karma. Unlike us, we have to follow the laws of God, and we have to follow the laws of man. If we break the laws of God, it's what you call sin. That means we have to suffer for that. Or if we want to perform some kind of pious activities to help others, feed the poor, give shelter to the homeless. That's what you call pious activities, following some kind of karma kanda. Then we can have some kind of enjoyment and take birth in the heavenly planets. But Krishna, when he comes, it is not because of karma. And there is another verse here, number 10. Janma karma chame divyam evam yogiti tatpataha. Chakva deham punarjanma na iti iti sa Arjuna. That if we can understand the nature, the transcendental nature, divine nature of the Lord's birth or his appearance and his activities, Janma karma chame divyam evam yogiti tatva, in truth, absolute truth, then one will not take birth again in this material world. So his coming to the material world is causeless. There is no reason, but as it says in the scriptures, that Krishna has one main anxiety. God has anxiety. Whatever we have, Krishna has also, because he is the origin of everything. Krishna's main anxiety is when we will go back to the spiritual world, when we will go back to our original habitat, our original home. There's a saying in English, there is no place like home, right? Now our home is not in the material world. We're like fish out of the water. We're not meant to be here. But out of illusion, thinking that I am the body, that the self is the body, therefore, I think that I'm happy. And Prabhupada says in one of the purports in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the material world, there is no good and there is no bad. There is no joy and there is no suffering. Prabhupada says everything is suffering. Even what we may say joy or enjoyment, that enjoyment is actually part of the suffering. So the soul cannot really be satisfied in the material world. Irregardless, you can be a Bill Gates. Now there's another person, the owner of Amazon, I think. He is the topmost person now, the richest person in the world. He's worth like $90 billion or something. He cannot spend that in one lifetime. Not possible. So what is he going to do? Is he happy? Of course not. Because why? He wants more and more and more and more. Greed. You can give a person who's greedy the whole entire universe. He's still not happy. He's still not satisfied. The only thing that can be satisfying to the soul is to be with Krishna, with God. Because that is our nature. Jinera Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. We're all eternal servants of Krishna. It is not possible to be happy without Krishna, and that's why we are here. We want to experience to be happy away from Krishna, without Krishna. So Krishna, out of his compassion, how can you find a person like that? He will give everything. You cannot find a person. There's only one person who has relationship with everybody. That is God. And that is eternal. But somehow we have forgotten because we want to become happy separate from Him. And the material world was created for us. But then, part of being in the material world is temporary. We cannot really exhibit that nature that we also have. Prabhupada says we are small Krishna. We're Brahman. Spirit souls. Krishna is Para-Brahman. He is the unlimited. We are minute in nature. And that is the difference between Krishna and us. One of the main difference. We are limited and Krishna is unlimited. Krishna is unborn. When He comes, His body remains the same. But for us, we change. So, somehow or other, we're given a chance again. We're so fortunate. Coming in contact with the Hare Krishna movement is not, we should not take it for granted. It takes many, many, many lifetimes. Bahunam janmanam ante ganavalmam prapajante Vasudeva sarvam iti samahatma sudurdava Manusyanam sahasresu kaschid yatati siddhi. Out of many thousands and thousands who wants to understand the absolute truth, very few became devotees. So now we're just trying to become devotees. We're not devotees yet. Because devotee means no material desires. Bhakti means no self-motivation. If you have self-interest, then you are not in the Bhakti platform yet. If your interest and your motivation is only for the service of the lordships and the Vaishnavas, then you are in the Bhakti platform. So right now, we're just trying to become devotees. And how do we make progress so that someday we will become devotees? Through hearing. Krishna comes in the material world in two ways. Through sound vibration and through His Archavigraha form. And in Kali Yuga, especially the sound vibration. We don't see Krishna with our eyes right now. We see Krishna through hearing. Hearing means reading from Srila Prabhupada's books. Srila Prabhupada has written and commented, translated over 80 volumes of books. Especially the Bhagavad Gita, which is our main book. Just like other religions, they have the Quran, the Torah, the Bible. We have the Bhagavad Gita. And some others say, the Bhagavad Gita, this is for neophytes. This is elementary. I want the highest. So like if you go to Loy Bazaar, how many of you been to Vrindavan? You go to Loy Bazaar, there's a store there where you can find so many translations of so many books of the Acharyas. It's like, like a child going to a candy store. Like, it's like, hey, I want that, I want that. Forget that. Before you can reach that far, try to understand Bhagavad Gita. Krishna Tattva. Krishna Tattva. This is very, very important. Actually, Bhagavad Gita is very deep. It is very deep. You know, it only has 700 slokas. How many of you have Bhagavad Gitas at home? None. We won't. How many of you read Bhagavad Gita? Every day? Every day. We have to make it a point. If you want to get out of this material world, or stay in the material world but not get so much affected by the modes of material nature, we have to equip ourselves with chanting. And Prabhupada says, along with chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one should read the Bhagavad Gita as it is and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sometimes devotees complain, oh, how come it's difficult, I'm having difficulty? Because we're not taking the proper medicine accordingly. We're not taking the medicine that's prescribed for our own benefit. Chanting is there. The diet we have, prasadam. Only eat Krishna prasad. No restaurants. Even if it's vegetarian. Read Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. And foremost, associate with devotees. That's why the temple is meant for. If there is no devotees, there is no temple. Temple comprised of devotees. And of course the deities are there. You'll find Krishna everywhere, but Krishna is more present in the temple. Correct or not? And the association here. Because bhakti means relationship. Without Vaishnava relationship, there is no bhakti. You cannot perform bhakti by yourself. It's not possible. You will need the association of devotees. Even the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they're the topmost devotees. Actually, they're eternal associates of the Supreme Lord. But they're associated with each other. They talk about Krishna. They share each other's Krishna consciousness. So what to speak of us, it is very much in need. So Krishna is always the same absolute truth. He does not change. Only his form may change from time to time in different incarnations called avatars, one who descends from the spiritual world for our own benefit again, to please and give pleasure to his devotees. And for us, bhakti is very easy, but at the same time it's not so easy because we have to work hard for that. Mercy doesn't come, even though Krishna says out of causeless mercy. We cannot just sit down and wait for the mercy to come. We have to perform tapasya, austerity. Austerity means activities which maybe unwillingly you don't want to perform it, but you have to do it because you want to achieve a certain goal which is very, very precious to you. Even in the material world, in order to survive, you have to work hard. You have to perform tapasya, austerity. You have to get up early, going to work, isn't it? Sometimes they have 2-3 jobs. Students, they have to get up early also. They have to, as what they say, burn their eyebrows. They have to really study and do some reviews to pass the exam. So in bhakti as well, in order to attain that level whereby we'll be able to establish our loving relationship with Krishna, we have to work for it. We have to be on the platform where we follow the scriptures in toto. There is no shortcut. There is no shortcut. There is no cutting corners. One has to perform Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, following the rules and regulations. Even Prabhupada says to come to the human platform, one has to follow the regulative principles. No meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. And follow a certain path whereby the spiritual attainment of going back home, back to Godhead will be attained. So we're very fortunate, and I'm so happy to share this with you. Somehow, given this chance to come here in Tawako, get the mercy under the shelter of Shishi Gornitai, Sitaram Laxman Hanuman, and Shinataji. And hopefully you'll also be able to construct and finish your desired temple, precious temple, so that you'll be able to also spread Krishna consciousness widely in New Jersey. Because this is the greatest. Krishna will give His mercy unlimitedly to those who are spreading the Krishna consciousness to everyone. Because they take all the risk and the challenges to do it. It's not an easy task. Prabhupada came here in America in 1965, even at an old age. And Prabhupada says, old age starts at 70, but actually we're all old. Prabhupada says old age means you're about to die, and we don't know when are we gonna die. Even a young child is old. So before we leave this body, we should try to accomplish a certain level of Krishna consciousness. And do not worry, because it says in the Bhagavad Gita also, that in this endeavor there is no loss or diminution. Whatever we attain, if we finish 10%, next lifetime we continue 11% in Krishna consciousness. But hope against hope, we should try to go back home, back to Godhead in this lifetime. Now, who wants to go back home, back to Godhead? All of you, good. Some, they don't want to. They just want to do service. That's good also. Because whatever we're doing for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord after death, if we complete, then we also continue doing this. Prabhupada was once asked, what if this Krishna consciousness doesn't actually exist? It is not true. Well, Prabhupada says, well, now we're enjoying, we're chanting, we're dancing, we're talking about Krishna, we take prasad. We're enjoying now. Now, if Krishna is true, next life, we will continue to chant and dance, talk about Krishna, and take prasad. Now you're not enjoying now, because you're not taking up to Krishna consciousness. You're not enjoying now, and next life, if Krishna is real, you still will not enjoy. So who is better? You or us who are trying? See, the process of Krishna consciousness means the motivation and the trying. This is what Krishna is want to see from us. Not how much we're doing, not how much money you give to Krishna, or how much you are keeping. It's how much your service attitude is. How much is what is your motivation? Why you're doing what you're doing? That is bhakti. If you're doing what you're doing is for the pleasure of Krishna and nothing for yourself, because bhakti means 0% for myself. Now you may say, oh, this seems to be very difficult. One time Prabhupada was giving a class in Los Angeles, and he was hammering, you must surrender 100%. Then you'll go back home, back to Godhead. And he was watching the faces of the disciples. They're all so sad. 100%? This is impossible. So he understood. Okay, 90%. And this is after the class. The class is finished now. 90% you surrender to Krishna, you go back home, back to Godhead. And he look again. Still the faces are a little bit not so changed. Kind of sad and rose. 90%. And he stepped out of the dais. He flicked his chadar, his gray chadar. Okay, 80%. If you surrender 80% to Krishna, I'll make sure you go back home, back to Godhead. Everybody say, Haribol, Haribol. Are we even 50% surrender right now? 80% still considered to be a little bit high, isn't it? But if you can be 50%, then we still have to work on 30% more. And hopefully, Prabhupada, if he says like that, if Prabhupada promised like that, then he'll make sure. Because in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharmam Parichaja, you give up everything. That means 100%, right? But his devotees, he can make a little bit of adjustment. But that actually 80% is 100%. If you can reach 80%, that is considered as 100%. So, Badaisya Sarvayar Aham Eva Vedya Vedanta Krit Vedavit Eva Chaham. Of all the Vedas, I am to be known, Lord Krishna. That even though one is not prolific though in Shastra, but if he does service properly, accordingly, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, he will also go back home, back to Godhead. And he will see Krishna face to face, as Prabhupada says, like we're seeing each other. Talk to him, and play with him, and serve him. Hare Krishna. I want to ask if there is any questions. We'll be happy to answer them based from what we spoke on. Any questions? You only have two things. Either you understood everything that I said, or you did not understand everything. There is no question. Is it clear? Okay, thank you very much. There is no question. Hare Krishna.